Bugs crashing your pack's party? Whether they've got paws or sneakers, your pack deserves a home that's protected from pests. That's where Wondercide comes in. Plant-powered protection made with steam-distilled natural essential oils that actually work. It kills and repels fleas, ticks, mosquitoes, and ants without questionable ingredients or overpowering smells. Safe to use around kids and pets when used as directed. Lab-proven to work fast. And proudly made in the USA. We offer sprays for pets, people, homes, and yards. Plus, spot-on treatments, collars, and even shampoos. Whatever your pack needs, we've got it covered. Founded by a pet parent looking for a better way to protect her dog Luna, Wondercide's now protected over 21 million lives and counting. You might have even seen us on Shark Tank. Go to Wondercide.com and use code WONDER20 for 20% off your first order. That's WONDER20 at Wondercide.com. Wondercide. Protect your pack with plant-powered Wondercide today.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to the Shabby Detective, yet another Columbo podcast. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me, of course, is Mr. Chris Dashew.
You have any coffee? I missed breakfast, and I need coffee. My wife was getting no sleep last night. No sleep whatsoever. I need coffee.
Would you like to crack your hard-boiled egg on the murder weapon?
I'd like to just shotgun Saturday night a gallon of orange juice at the crime scene instead, walking around with my giant bottle of orange juices, looking around at dead people. All right.
On this episode, we're talking about A Stitch in Crime. It is the 6th episode of the 2nd season, directed by Hy Averback and written by Cheryl Hendricks. I think this is the only episode that Cheryl wrote, but my God, is it a banger? My goodness. And we have the return of Anne Francis. We also have Nina Talbot in here. Nita Talbot. Nita, we both know her as coming from that amazing werewolf episode of Kolchak.
Yes, amazing.
She is horned up for anything in this episode, especially Lieutenant Columbo.
But also, I am not Spock himself, Leonard Nimoy. Because the look on her face when Leonard Nimoy says, I don't want none of that ass, is sheer disappointment. Utter and sheer disappointment.
Oh, yeah. Well, wouldn't you be disappointed if Leonard Nimoy turned you down?
This is peak Leonard Nimoy. Before we get into the episode, this is 73. Go look at his Wikipedia photo. Go look at what you imagine Leonard Nimoy to look like if you're a person my age or your age. This is the Leonard Nimoy you imagine. This is like peak Leonard Nimoy. So I have watched this episode 4 times. That's how much I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this episode almost more than anything else we've watched. Yes, I'm a little biased because it has Leonard Nimoy, but he plays the kind of villain that this show deserves, which is a smug, arrogant piece of shit to his core, to the point where this episode, like so many of the good ones, does not wrap up until the final frame, which, like the best ones of these episodes, they are able to milk the How Ketchum for as long as possible. And this episode has a fake out ending too, on top of everything else.
Well, yeah, this was, like I said, directed by Hy Averback, and the previous episode that he did was suitable for framing. So you talk about that last shot, that last moment. That's one of the best, folks. And yeah, this one, Stitch in Crime, probably up there with some of my favorite episodes. This one came out February 11th, 1973. Nice, tight 70 minutes. And this thing, I actually read the script. The script is, I would say, word for word of what we see in this. It was really, really nice to read, and just, I'm going to use that word tight again. It is such a tight story, and there's nothing in here. Like we've talked before about like, oh yeah, and then they take this detour and they go down this area and like, oh, here's this horn player and they're trying to pin the murder on him. Yeah, there's a patsy in here. There's a fall guy, Jared Martin, in here, but it plays so perfectly into what Nimoy as Dr. Barry Mayfield, what he's doing. This whole thing just moves along like clockwork for me anyway. So I'm so glad to hear that you really enjoyed this one as well.
I say Jared Martin not wearing a ugly woman mask and antagonizing his wife, unfortunately. Oddly enough, not expecting to see him immediately in something else, but here we are.
After we just talked about him being Night Gallery, where he got to play 2 parts, right? That was the father-son episode?
Yeah. And now he's playing just a drug addict. Former drug addict, I guess. It almost becomes a little much of a diversion. I get why Nimoy does what he does, why the character does what he does to kind of send them down that path. But Jared Martin just kind of shows up and disappears really quickly. They don't give him, I don't feel like they gave him enough time, so it almost feels like they could have left it out and just had it be like, this happened off screen and we don't need to meet the person who's then just going to die in the next scene.
There's a history of patsies in these episodes. There's another one that's coming up probably, I can't remember if it's next season or the one after, but it's the Dick Van Dyke episode, and there's a really good patsy in that one as well. And there was almost, remember, I'm trying to remember which episode it is, but there was a tennis instructor who had been banging, I think it might have been the one with Culp, the original Culp one, Death Lends a Hand. And basically Columbo shows up and he's just like, I know you didn't do it. We're good. And it's pretty much the same thing here. Once he shows up and meets Jared Martin, he's just like, yeah, all right. And he just gets that little information about Jared Martin's character being left-handed. And that's the thing about this episode that I love so much, is that every time Nimoy thinks he's one step ahead, Columbo is right there at his heels like a little frickin' dog, barking at him going, nope, I figured that out. Nope, I can disprove that. Nope. Here's another thing. And he just pretty much is telling him almost from the beginning, I know you're guilty. And to the point where we get to see a very unusual thing, but we'll definitely get there as we go through here. But we should start at the beginning, where we've got Will Geer, Edmund Hidemann, coming into the hospital as a patient, and he is having some heart issues. And then we kind of cross-cut with him over to Barry Mayfield and Nurse Sharon Martin, the Anne Francis character. And this whole thing where she just does not like him at all, and he is doing nothing to dissuade her opinion because he is acting so sneaky. I think you underestimate his sneakiness.
I love Nimoy and what he does in this episode because he's just he's playing that role of like, I am being sneaky. You totally caught me, but I'm going to deny it. Even if it's staring you in the face, I'm going to deny it. And I mean, those kind of people infuriate you, obviously, as they infuriate anybody. But that kind of character is the perfect kind of villain for this kind of story because what he is doing, it has to be sneaky because he's the only one who can make it happen. Is essentially, in a lot of ways, the murder and this story, it's like it's such an intricately laid together set of pieces that like Nimoy has to be a really talented heart surgeon who the nurse already hated him, and that already started fomenting this kind of distrust in her of him. And that's why she's looking at everything. Because again, if she wasn't, he would have gotten away with it more or less. And that's the thing about the story is everything hinges on him being immensely unlikable, which you can see in every scene that he's in. So he's perfect for this role. And he's the perfect kind of character because it's different than what we've seen up until this point. We've had people by accident. We've had people intentionally. We've had people who kill someone and then have to kill 2 or 3 more people. And this is Nimoy. He's like all in. He's almost the most all in that we've seen because he's willing to murder 3 people, essentially. He goes as far as 2, and he almost gets a 3rd.
And he almost gets away with it, too.
Right, if not for that meddling Columbo and his weird seasonal allergies / upset stomach / whatever is going on with him in this episode.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what is going on at home that he shows up to the crime scene. So the crime itself is Nimoy taking out Anne Francis with a tire iron after he has gone in and done surgery on Will Geer, putting in some temporary sutures in a heart valve replacement or heart valve being fixed, I suppose. And she figures that something is wrong and she's about to have an appointment the next day with the medical supply company, wants to show them the suture that was put in and basically undo all of Nimoy's work because Nimoy's very upset. He's basically doing Devlin McGregor in this one. This is the beginning of The Fugitive because he wants this drug that they're working with to get out onto the market so he can claim all this credit and hopefully gain riches and wealth and all of this kind of stuff. And when Geer comes in, he's just like, oh yeah, no, we need to do some more tests. We're at least a year away from doing that. And that just sets Nimoy off. Between that and the telegraph that he got to say basically the same thing, like, hey, you're not ready yet. He is not happy about that. So what are you going to do? You're going to kill your boss, get rid of that guy, put that drug out on the market. There you go. You're on easy street now. And if you have to, you just hire a one-armed man to take care of the one doctor that is not playing the same game that you are.
It's also very reminiscent of a Sam Raimi film from 1999 or 2001, Spider-Man. Oh, damn. I mean, it's that same thing of like, we don't want, we are unable to work with you the way that you want. So Nimoy takes it upon himself to pull a Green Goblin and try to kill everybody so he can, I think what it is, it's a drug that helps with the rejection of transplants, which is a thing. And I don't know if that's a thing that they have a way to fix. So it probably would be something that would be making them millions of dollars. It would have been too on the nose for it to be, the cure for cancer. But miracle drug of some sort, right? That requires further testing. And in the search for more money, more testing means less money. I mean, that's what these all come down to, right? It's always that same thing of like, if we wait a year, someone might beat us to it. It's like, all right, so fucking murder's on the table now. Like, I always love how that's the leap in all of these stories. It's like, and then I'm going to, like in The Fugitive, I'm going to pin your wife's murder on you so that you go to jail. Like, wouldn't it have been easier just to kill him? Like, that's why I love the simplicity of this. Like, Nimoy's just all in on the murder. From like moment one, he's like, oh, you need a new heart valve? Let me put these dissolving sutures in there. Oh, you noticed something and I saw you notice it out of the corner of my eye? murder. I'm going to murder you. Like, she had one notion and he went all in. Like, he's the most dastardly villain of all of the Columbo villains so far.
He's not Culp. He's not losing his temper. He's not, Culp also killing Dean Stockwell for unknown reasons. He is very quick to anger, but is very cold, very calculating, very logical, I would say. It's almost like he's been purged of emotions, almost as if he's gone through some sort of ritual.
Ponfar, one might say.
Well, was Ponfar? Ponfar is when he goes into heat, I think.
Is it? Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the ritual was from Star Trek, the motion picture that gets interrupted when V'ger comes into the solar system.
V'ger. That's the one Star Trek movie I've never seen, so I couldn't answer that question for you. You mentioned some of the other villains that have shown up in the show. Leonard Nimoy's character, if put in the same situation that Roddy McDowall's character was in that episode, he would not have cracked. That's how cool of a customer Nimoy is in this episode, to the point where, like I was mentioning, like he sticks to his guns up until essentially the moment before the freeze frame.
Think about, our last murderer, where it was Columbo just like, okay, I figure you dressed up like a man and you killed your husband and he's buried under this fountain. Yeah, you got me. Like, he could have presented everything to Nimoy and be like, oh, you got everything but proof. I'm so sorry to hear that, Lieutenant.
And that's the thing that I think you were driving at before, where we see a out of character moment for Columbo. And it's because Nimoy's character drives him to it. He's just like, I am fucking done with your ass, man. Like, I'm done. And I think he was trying to see if that would cause him to crack, and it doesn't.
No, he's completely unflappable. And it's very interesting because people in the literature pointed out that we've seen Columbo mad one other time so far, and that was in that very first episode, the one with Gene. Why am I blanking on his name? But the one where he was the psychiatrist. Yes, prescription murder. And that he gets really angry in that. He gets angry more at his secretary and kind of scares her in that one. That one, it seemed very much even more of a tactic. In this one, it seems, to your point, a little bit like a tactic, but I also think he genuinely is losing his shit a little bit, which is weird because Columbo is so unflappable.
I wonder why that choice was made, since it's such a choice they don't make. Like, it's such an obvious choice that they're making to not have him get rattled, that it seems like there's a point to him being rattled in this episode, outside of just he's trying to get Nimoy to, again, crack himself, like, put the onus back on him. Even you mentioned that Nimoy thinks he's thinking ahead and Columbo keeps getting ahead of him. There is a moment where Nimoy is ahead by taking those drugs and stashing them in her apartment. A lesser detective would have stopped there. A lesser detective would have stopped there and he would have gotten away with it.
And he, like you said, almost does. By the way, Kolinar is the Vulcan ritual to purge all emotion.
This is a Spock adjacent role.
Everybody yelling at their podcast right now. I want to let them calm down a little bit and just bask in the glory of Leonard Nimoy in this, because he, like you said, once he decides on murder, he goes all in, all the chips in the middle, and he just keeps adding chips to it because it's just like, yeah, to your point, he plants these drugs. He goes right over to Nita Talbot, is just like, hey, what was the name of that guy? I really want to help out with this murder case. What was it? Harry Alexander? Oh, yeah, okay. And then, like, just sends her directly to Columbo, basically. Like, I thought of something, Lieutenant. There was this guy, Harry Alexander. I love how Columbo's like, now, did you bring that up? Oh, no, you were talking with Dr. Mayfield? Oh, okay. All right. And like I said, every time Nimoy thinks that he's setting up a new barrier, Columbo just goes right through it and is completely right there with him. Like, Nimoy may think that he's one step ahead, but I think he's like a half a step or maybe just an inch ahead. And Columbo is always there to be like, oh, yeah, no, we checked on that, sir. And No, that isn't the case. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You think that he shot himself up with that? Actually, he's left-handed, so he wouldn't put that needle in his right arm there. So I love that.
Well, and it begs the question: if he had injected it in the right arm, would that have been enough? Because again, I think this is one of these episodes where Columbo walks in and he already knows. The moment Nimoy is fucking with that clock for no reason. Mind you, there's no reason Nimoy needs to be fucking with that clock.
Well, that is interesting. I talked about how the script was exactly the same. That was one tiny little difference, was it was a pencil rolling off of his desk rather than him fucking with that clock. And that he turns around, sees the pencil rolling off his desk and reaches over and grabs it before it falls off. And that's what sets Columbo off, being like, you were able to do that. You should have been so distracted by the news of this woman being murdered, but you took the time to do that. But yeah, here's the same thing. Oh, you took the time to be updating your clock, to be winding that clock. Okay, that's very interesting. We mentioned before the whole thing with the egg and the the crowbar, or tire iron. I fucking love that when he shows up to the crime scene and is just so wiped out and trying to his hard-boiled eggs. It's so good.
So I have a question for you. If we put ourselves in the shoes of Columbo, is it more suspicious for you to walk in on someone and then be fixing a clock and then focusing on that? Or is it more suspicious for them to catch a pencil falling off the desk? Because I'm not sure either one are particularly suspicious in this setting. Because again, Columbo knows, I know, and you know that the narrative is telling us he knows in this moment, because he's like, hey, isn't that weird that you were able to focus on that clock? But is that actually something that anyone would be like, you're fucking with that pencil off your desk while you were on the phone? Like, is that something someone would actually notice? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't know what the psychology, I'm trying to put myself in those shoes and say, if I got bad news like that, how would I function? I feel like I very much shut down and go through the routine. So I think fixing a clock, winding my watch, stopping a pencil from rolling off the desk, I think that would kind of be just second nature thing to me. I don't know if there was a master sleuth, if I would suddenly raise red flags by being just kind of cold about things and waiting for things to hit me later on. I think I would just be so stunned. I would just try to pretend and go about things in a normal way.
Columbo just makes such a big deal of it. He's like, well, you were able to focus on that and you didn't get tripped up by the news. It's like, okay, if we're going, like you said, the route of, well, when someone gets bad news, my expectation is they shut down immediately, then yeah. But like sitting and like running your hands through your hair, combing your hair, like where does that line begin and end of this is a secondhand, like just something you're doing second nature versus something where it's like, I'm focusing on it. So like we all know Columbo knows in that moment, but it's like that's fucking a stretch is more it's a little bit of a stretch. Because I think there's moments where Nimoy has like a good point that he serves back to Columbo, and Columbo's at his best when he is able to hit that point back. And that moment, I don't feel like Columbo hits it back the way Nimoy does, because Nimoy's like, it was just, second nature, dude. It's like, oh, you would say that. And it's like, yeah, he would say that. We would say that, Columbo. Yeah, he would. But I do appreciate that this episode continues with the theme of lots of food-related stuff for Columbo. Like you mentioned, the egg, the orange juice. He's constantly asking for coffee. At one point, he blames his allergies on eating crab. Just not used to this crab. Or maybe it's the trees. Maybe it's neither one, Columbo. I have no idea.
Yeah, I love how he shows up at that party and is just like, oh, sure, yeah, I'll take some of these hors d'oeuvres. Oh, yeah. And just, he's a poor cop. He makes $11,000 a year, and what's he going to do? They show up at this big lavish party. And I like how Nimoy has to be like, oh, I was going to cancel this, but it was way too late. I'm covering my tracks before you even say anything, Columbo. I'm telling you now that I'm too upset to have this party, but I couldn't stop it, sorry.
Is there something to what Columbo's doing at the party with asking for the antacids? Is that a thing? Is there something to that? I always wonder in some of these better written episodes, if there's like a is Columbo digging moment. Is there something that is he digging in that moment?
That's a really good question. And I kept thinking, is he trying to prove something or find something out, or will this somehow come into the narrative? And it doesn't seem like it. I think that he just genuinely had an upset stomach. I'm not sure. That does seem very odd. It sticks out because it's, we were talking recently about, you're in a movie studio, you're going to deal with movie stuff. You're in a greenhouse, you're going to deal with gardening things. Here it's a medical thing. So he just has to ask for a prescription. Yeah, that was very odd to me. Is he seeing if Mayfield will try to poison him? I don't know what it is.
I just felt like that it was kind of like almost like a missed opportunity, really. Like they're in his office at his house and they can't figure out a way to like have Columbo needle him on something here. Like that was more surprising than anything else.
When he does that whole thing of, oh, those pills that you gave me, Doc, oh, those are so good, really set me up. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you're right, Columbo. I do like when he's in the medical theater and he's just sitting there having to look away constantly because apparently our dear friend Mr. Columbo is squeamish of blood.
Oh, yeah. Well, remember those crime scene photos that they were showing him over in England? He was trying to eat then and just couldn't do it.
I like that whole scene with the surgeon back and forth. And I'm like, oh, yeah, come look. Come watch. He's like, can we just talk about it? I don't need to look. Like, I don't know. Peter Falk, I think his comedic timing obviously is part of what makes this such a good role. But I really like when they allow him to be funny. He's really funny, obviously.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And God, I keep thinking about how good his squaring off against Nimoy is. And I have to say, Will Geer is a fucking fantastic actor. And he just really brings it. Small role, but every time he's on screen, he just is so captivating. And just this, because I grew up with him being Grandpa Walton, but then as I've gone back through over the years and seen him in other things, he just always manages to bring a performance that, it just captures the eye. You want to hang out with this doctor. He has such a great bedside manner, and just, the way that he's kind of just walks in like, I own the place type of thing, which he basically does. He's the head doctor in charge kind of thing. He's just like, yeah, no, here I am. I'm supposed to be taking it easy, but I took my own pulse. I took my blood pressure. I know I'm good. So just, leave me alone and let me go around. Let me give this younger doctor a hard time. The guy that's trying to give him, like, look at his symptoms and all this. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then, his relationship with Mayfield and the way that he talks with Anne Francis, he's like, yeah, he's a hothead. He's all this stuff, but he's a great doctor. Cut him some slack. And meanwhile, Nimoy's trying to kill him.
And I guess also Will Geer at one point, him and Columbo endear one another because Columbo comes in with a cigar and it's the old, I haven't smelled anything since, antiseptic for a week now. I want to blow that cigar smoke in my face. Oh, yeah. Like, all right.
Yeah. He's like the old colonel from The Big Sleep or something. Like, oh, yeah, please drink and smoke in front of me because I can't.
Right. Exactly. I'm going to live vicariously through you. I do like where the episode kind of ends up going. I think ultimately, the conclusion and the vehicle through which Nimoy is doing what he does maybe doesn't ultimately all the way live up to his performance, because it is just the suture and it is just the suture and that's all it is. There's not more to it with some of these Columbo episodes. There's a little bit more to it. There's a misdirect inside of the misdirect, and I know where it comes in here, but it's kind of surprising that we're introduced to the thing that it is immediately, and it is that, and it never changes, and there is no misdirection, and there is no anything else. It is the suture, and that's the whole issue here.
Nimoy tries to do the thing of pinning this stuff over on Jared Martin. Okay, but that quickly blows up on him, and then has to go back to the, it's the suture. I think that the moment of reveal that Mac is not a person, that it's the medical supply place, I think that works. Like, in another person's hands, it might have been too clumsy, and I just like the way that it is. And I like that it genuinely seems like Columbo doesn't have that part figured out.
That is the moment that works, because I'm not saying that the ending doesn't work, but it's so kind of one note with what it is that there's not like a secondary twist outside of it's the medical supply store and I was calling them to figure out what's the deal with the suture that I've got here. And they never explain, I guess he dyed the suture?
Yeah, they don't really talk about the coloring process, because they do make a big mention of it's a different color and it's a different texture. And so I kind of wish there had been something to do with, here's this blackening agent or a marker or something that was used to color that thread to that suture.
Well, and every time I watched it, I expected when Anne Francis was like looking at it, because again, like you see her looking at it pretty quickly in the episode. I expected that like you would see her like rubbing it, and like I imagined it happening, and it never did. Like her like rubbing it between her fingers and it like kind of coming off a little bit, because he had to have doctored it in some form or fashion. They make that abundantly clear, because she's a good enough nurse to not have made that mistake unless it was covered up to make it look like normal suture. So I don't know. It's just, I like where it goes. I like the Mac twist. I don't know. I feel like they went all in on the suture thing, which is fine. I just wish there was one little twist to it. Just one little complication, one something, because her and the Jared Martin stuff, again, it kind of isn't enough.
I always think that Nimoy hides the suture in his hair, the way that he runs his fingers through his hair, but I guess it's more of like a victory thing, or I'm done with the surgery, aren't I great? And here I'm fabulous, and the way he runs his fingers through his hair. And also kind of to prove that it's not hiding in there, I suppose, because Columbo probably would have had to have like looked at his hair to be like, is that up there? But the whole idea of the switcheroo, putting that suture inside of Columbo's garb, I thought was pretty great.
I agree. I like that moment where Columbo's like, I checked everywhere but on me.
Yeah, I love it.
And you see his face, he's just like, shit.
Reveal at the end of this, how he gets so distraught, and the way he leaves that office, and then the way he busts back through with, that smile on his face, just like, boom, I figured it out while I was in the hallway. It took me 5 seconds and I got it. Oh man. I mean, that's up there for me as one of the better reveals of this entire show.
Well, and the look on his face when he comes back in there, it's like, I got you, motherfucker. Like, I got your ass so good. And again, like, the thing about the Leonard Nimoy character is this wouldn't work if the character had given it up at any point. This has to be a character that goes to the end, believing that he is going to get away with it. And I don't think Leonard Nimoy's character for at any moment in this episode thinks he's not going to walk away scot-free. Like, up until the moment where that changes, he thinks he's going to.
You're remarkable. You have intelligence. You have perception. You have great tenacity. You've got everything but proof.
He's such a nasty, nasty villain. He's just great. I mean, everything about his performance in this episode is great. This is the only time he shows up in the show, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a shame. I mean, we're going to get Shatner twice, and at least one of the Shatner episodes, again, is one of my favorite. And in that the first Shatner episode, you get Timothy Carey back as somebody else. He's not Bert. And you also get little bit of Chekhov in there as well. You get Walter Koenig showing up. So pretty nice.
I think the TOS folks, I think they have had all weird careers respectively compared to like a lot of the people from Next Gen or any other thing. Like TOS, they were so far ahead of everything that their careers are like, it was just a fucking TV show, guys. Like, like TNG came out as a response to the popularity of TOS. TOS, there was nothing before TOS. So like seeing Nimoy or Shatner or Koenig or, Nichelle Nichols or even James Doohan in other things, it is still weird because for the most part, for me, that's all they ever are. That's all they, Shatner's done plenty of other things. So has Nimoy and they all have, but their notoriety is from Star Trek, and Nimoy is playing a Spock-esque character in this show. I mean, there's no getting around it. They're not going to have him playing the kind of character that Shatner would play on this show. When Shatner's on this show, he's going to play a very Shatner character, I'm sure. But this is a very Leonard Nimoy character. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's almost not a character. It almost just feels like Peter Falk is sparring verbally with Leonard Nimoy. Like, that's the thing. Like, can't speak effusively enough about how much Leonard Nimoy and Shatner and all of them had an effect on the things that I love in my childhood. And I'm never going to do a TOS show, but anytime we get to talk about them, which is infrequently, because again, they weren't on Night Gallery, right? They weren't.
Nimoy was on one episode of Night Gallery,
but we haven't watched it yet, have we?
No, it's season 3.
Okay, so it's not a matter of he's not on it. It's just we haven't seen it yet. But it's not like we're doing a TOS show, so I just love seeing Leonard Nimoy and stuff. I mean, he feels like the one who I haven't seen enough in things outside of Star Trek and The Ballad of Bilbo Baggins.
Well, if you want some good things, he was in one with Henry Fonda called The Alpha Caper, which is available on YouTube to download. It was a TV movie. At this same time, 1972, this Columbo is 1973, had things gone differently, Nimoy would have been the star of his own TV show called Baffled, which was shot as a pilot and then didn't succeed as a pilot, so got released as a nice hour-and-a-half TV movie where he is a race car champion haunted by intense visions of an American woman in some kind of danger in an English mansion. So it's this kind of paranormal racing movie. So also very recommended. And also, I believe I got that one from YouTube. So great opening sequence, too, as if memory serves, or opening credits, I should say.
I'm a Nimoy fan and a Shatner fan, but Nimoy, for me, just... I mean, the guy directed 3 Men and a Baby, folks. Come on. Like, never forget.
Oh, and the other thing, I'm sure you've already seen this one, but his small but very powerful role in the 78 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So good.
Oh, yeah. What about other film? Didn't we cover one of his other films that he directed, Holy Matrimony?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. That's so funny. I was just talking about that the other day when I was doing an episode on True Romance, and I was like, yes, let's not forget some of those other roles that Patricia Arquette was in.
Holy Matrimony, featuring child Joseph Gordon-Levitt marrying an adult Patricia Arquette. That sounds like something you'd be interested in hearing our take on. You can find it at weirdingwaymedia.com. But Leonard Nimoy maybe should have passed on that. Maybe should have passed on that one. I'm actually shocked that he doesn't come back in Columbo.
Yeah, he made such an impression in this one. I would have liked to have had more.
I also think the direction in this episode is fine. Nothing particularly out of the box. I mean, we had some of those kind of weird things early on in the show with the glasses and all the stuff where people were getting kind of funky with the cinematography. This one's pretty straightforward. There's a nice little scene where it kind of dissolves from Nimoy talking on the phone, and it's a VO of him talking, asking Nita Talbot to come out and walk on the beach with him, which sounds way more menacing than it ends up being. But there aren't a lot of like tricks or anything. This is a very workmanlike episode too, which not a bad thing. But sometimes these episodes, like, they really stand out. They have like a moment or two that really stands out. This one just pretty straightforward.
No, I would say so. Yeah, there's not really any kind of, hey, we're going to show things in reflections of glasses or do any sort of crazy, shot from down below in the street and kind of zooming back up over somebody's shoulder inside of a building like Mr. Spielberg was doing. Yeah, it's very, very workmanlike. I mean, it is very similar to Suitable for Framing in that it's just, here's the story and that's it. There's not psychedelia going on. There's no real tricks. It's just a simple story well told. And again, I wish that Sherrill had written more for this show. He ended up writing, he was just an amazing television writer for years and years and worked on a bunch of stuff, but he only ended up with 34 credits. But, with writers, you can never tell how many things he actually worked on.
Well, Jackson Gillis worked on this show so much, and so did Steve Bochco. So it's like, It's actually surprising that there aren't any more episodes written by Cheryl Hendricks. Because, again, for the issues that I did have with this episode, this is one of the better ones. And again, I think most of the credit goes to Leonard Nimoy and Peter Falk sharing enough scenes. And also just Nimoy being a captivating villain. Like, he commands your attention when he's on screen. And Nimoy had that presence. Look, he is a weird looking guy. And he's a weird looking guy. Like, he's a character actor, but very rarely do character actors become as well known as Leonard Nimoy. But yet Spock is part of the cultural makeup of our society just as much as fucking Luke Skywalker is. I mean, in reality, like, and that's the thing. And that role is what it is because of Leonard Nimoy. So, like, the quality of him as an actor cannot be overstated. Like, he's so good in this episode. The fact that he never had his own TV show is a shame, because they were back in the truck up to Shatner's house constantly and just giving him every, like, fuck, man, TJ Hooker, fucking everything. Like, he wasn't the best part of that show. He just wasn't, guys. Leonard Nimoy was way better than Shatner. Crucify me, please.
He would do a great job in supporting roles, things like Fringe. Like, maybe one of these days we'll do a Fringe cast, though I'm sure somebody else has done that 12 times over, because is a shame. He should have been out there solving crimes or doing something. Maybe even just murdering women or something. Like, every week Leonard Nimoy picks a different woman to murder.
He was such a captivating presence that I'm with you. Like, we say this from time to time, like, I'd watch that man read the phone book. Like, yeah, I would. I mean, look, he was part of Mission Impossible. So, I mean, I think people tend to forget that was a TV show, that it had a fairly large cast of people, including Martin Landau, Peter Graves. But Leonard Nimoy's in there. He was part of that cast.
For me, he was just freaking brilliant when he was doing the VOs for In Search Of. That show is something. And I was just quoting from that one because we did an episode on Murder by Decree, and that's all about Jack the Ripper. And so I just go right out to that In Search Of Jack the Ripper episode. I'm like, yeah, this is really fucking creepy. The way that they put these episodes, and then having his voice just kind of croaking over these things. He did a great job.
What is it with Star Trek alumni and narrating shows that are about weird things? Because we have Nimoy, then we have Man Who Asks You Questions.
Freaks, yeah.
And then more contemporarily, we even have Shatner finally getting in on it with his own show that you can find. I think it's called, like, The Unexplained. And there he is sitting on a chair, just kind of looking bloated, reading off of a teleprompter poorly. I mean, look, Shatner is what he is. But yeah, Nimoy for me is just, he's the one, man. He was, it's a shame because he had a lot of personal demons too, which well chronicled. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of this episode. And again, I genuinely watched it 4 times, which I cannot say for any of these other episodes that we've watched for the shows.
Good stuff. And next week, we're not getting Martin Landau, but we are going to be getting Lawrence Harvey in The Most Dangerous Match. Has nothing to do with football this time.
Or the Zodiac Killer.
Yes, this is a chess episode that we have coming up. So I am very excited to talk about that one with you, Chris. Until then, where can people find you and what you're working on?
WeirdingWayMedia.com is where you can find this show, my show, The Culture Cast, which we've mentioned. If you want to hear Mike and I talk about holy matrimony for whatever reason, if that is something that you are interested in doing, you can find that show and that episode over at WeirdingWayMedia.com. What about you, Mike?
Same thing, Chris. Everything that I do is available at WeirdingWayMedia.com. So come on over, hear me talk about all these other movies over at the Projection Booth Podcast. While you're there, check out some other things that we're working on. Check out the Barney Miller show that we do, The Life and Times of Captain Barney Miller. We mentioned the Night Gallery podcast that we do called Midnight Viewing. There's a lot of good things for you out there. We make a lot of content. More than content, we actually make some very good, well thought out, listenable things. So imagine that. I want to thank John Walker for doing our opening theme, Colin Gallagher for doing our crazy bossa nova final theme, ending theme. Great stuff. I want to thank everybody for listening to this. And if you could, just do us a favor in return. Go on over to wherever you downloaded this and rate and review the show. Spread the word. Let people know that, hey, there's yet another Columbo podcast out there. As if 5 or 6 weren't enough, here's another couple of yahoos talking about stuff. But hopefully you're getting something fun out of this. I know I have a blast doing it.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies. Inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.